It's time again for another installment of The Basics, and on today's show, in regards to the Star Trek CCG, I want to talk about one card by itself. And I might start doing this more often because there's a lot of cards that have stories and histories. But today I'm starting with a card that we all know and love called Raise the Stakes. Let's get started, shall we? Now, if you've played the Star Trek CCG right from the beginning in 1994, you know all about Raise the Stakes. You've either used it on people, or you've gotten it used on you. You've either got some cool cards off people, or you've lost some cool cards to people. But either way, and I'm saying this as someone who has both used it and been victimized, I don't hate it, believe it or not. I actually like this card. Raise the Stakes was created more as a bluff than anything else. That's the primary purpose of this card, is to bluff your opponent into thinking that he's going to get screwed over big time, end up losing, and have to give you one of his best cards. And the first couple times I used it back in the day, the opponents I used it on, two different opponents, actually forfeited the game and gave me an easy victory, and we were still about halfway through. So basically, it's an event card that you play on your own turn. Yes, that too. Your opponent must forfeit the game or agree the eventual winner may randomly select and keep one card from loser's 60 card deck, and that is cumulative, which means you can play more than one on your turn. Mind you, playing one is enough of a bluff. If you really want to get crazy, you can play two or three. I did it once. It was interesting. It's the biggest bluff in the game, and while it does suck if you agree to keep playing and end up losing and have to give up a cool card, and remember, it is random, so in some cases you might not give up a cool card, it caused a lot of controversy, and it got attention in the mid-90s because, you know, parental groups and children's groups are, oh, it's teaching gambling at an early age. This has nothing to do with gambling. It was put in the game as a bluff. So you get to keep a card from your opponent. Big deal. If he does it to you, it goes vice versa. It could go either way, so it's not gambling. Calm down, everybody. The other problem is, as good of a card as it is, it ended up on ban lists very quickly. And unfortunately, I have to talk a little shit here, because the continuing committee, when they took over the game from Decipher, they instantly added it to their ban list, and you just know, because some of the whiners that work for the continuing committee were victimized at a very early time in the Star Trek CCG at a younger age, and they whined and cried, and when they had the power to do something about it, they did, and it kind of ruins the experience, because I don't know one player that I've talked to over the years that actually hates this card. I used to have a friend, and I have to mention Josh again, but this time in a better way, because he got victimized with this card more than anybody, and he laughed it off and actually smiled every time it happened. It's like, he treated it as the funniest thing ever, because I guess he knew he fell victim to the bluff, and what else can you do? You just shrug and move on. And in some cases, when I did it to him, I remember one time I got Deep Space Nine card off him, and the next time I selected a random card, I got a medical tricorder. So it's not like you're going to pull something big every time if you end up being the benefactor of this card. Either way, I love this card. I do have it in a couple of my decks. If you're playing house rules, you can always choose to keep it out. Again, I don't know anyone that does that. And if you go to any official tournaments, it's not allowed. If you go to some card shop tournaments, some of them will allow it. They'll have a much looser ban list because they're not stuck-up prudes like the continuing committee. So they like to see people have fun. And that's the whole point of the game. People, have fun. As an addendum, I have encountered some players over the years that think that it's more of a tactical card to be played in certain situations in the game or certain points in the game. Yes and no. I still consider it more of a bluff than anything else. And if you look in your original Star Trek CCG Player's Guide, they'll confirm that it's mainly meant as a bluff. They do reference the tactical aspect of the card, but in all the times I've seen it played, and again, this goes back to when I started in '94, it's 99.9% of the time used as a bluff, plain and simple. Have a great day, everybody.